It was a quiet evening at one of the most luxurious hotels in the city, where guests were greeted with warm smiles and first-class service, except for one man. Big Shaq, the global icon and beloved star, walked into the lobby, tired and looking for a place to rest. But instead of a warm welcome, he was met with cold prejudice. The hotel manager, blinded by his own assumptions, denied him entry, insisting that Shaq didn't belong there. What happened next was something no one could have predicted. This is a story of resilience, redemption, and how one moment of injustice became a lesson for the world.
Welcome to Behind the Hate, where we share powerful stories that shine a light on real-life challenges and the fight against injustice. These fan-made stories are created to spark conversations about equality and respect, encouraging us all to reflect on the world around us. Before we begin, let us know in the comments where you're watching from and be the first to join the conversation. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an impactful story like this one.
The city buzzed with energy as nightfall approached, with people flocking to restaurants and high-end hotels for a night of indulgence. Among them was none other than Big Shaq, a towering figure known not just for his athletic achievements, but also for his heartwarming humor and generosity. Shaq had just wrapped up a charity event, spending hours with underprivileged children, signing autographs, and donating generously. Exhausted but content, he decided to treat himself to a quiet evening at one of the most renowned hotels in the city. As he approached the grand entrance, the soft glow of golden chandeliers spilled out into the street, promising a night of comfort and luxury. The doorman nodded politely, recognizing the celebrity instantly, but inside the lobby, the atmosphere was different. Shaq stepped through the revolving doors, his large frame and warm demeanor filling the space. The lobby was immaculate, marble floors gleamed under the lights, and the air carried the faint scent of jasmine. Guests mingled quietly, their voices blending with soft piano music playing in the background. Shaq approached the front desk with his usual charm. "Good evening. I'd like to book a suite for the night," he said, his voice deep but kind. Behind the desk stood a middle-aged manager, sharply dressed but with a stern, almost guarded expression. Instead of greeting Shaq with the enthusiasm most would show such a high-profile figure, the manager's eyes narrowed as he scanned Shaq up and down, his expression betraying an air of disdain. "I'm sorry, sir," the manager said curtly, his voice laced with a condescension that Shaq hadn't expected. "Our suites are fully booked tonight." Shaq raised an eyebrow, glancing at the reservation board behind the desk. Several suites were clearly marked as available. Politely, he responded, "I see there are rooms listed as open. Are you sure about that?" The manager stiffened, his face hardening further. "Even if there were rooms available, sir, this hotel has a strict policy regarding clientele. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable somewhere else." The implication in the manager's words was crystal clear. Shaq's warm expression faltered, replaced by a look of quiet disappointment. He had faced discrimination before, but it never got easier. He glanced around the lobby, noticing the uncomfortable glances of other guests and staff who had overheard the exchange. Taking a deep breath, Shaq decided not to escalate the situation, yet. Instead, he said calmly, "Thank you for your time," and turned to leave, his broad shoulders sagging slightly as he walked back toward the entrance. But Shaq wasn't the type to let injustice slide, especially when it was so blatantly wrong. Outside the hotel, he leaned against a lamppost, gathering his thoughts. He pulled out his phone, scrolling through his contacts, a plan forming in his mind. Little did the hotel manager know, Shaq was about to teach him a lesson that would reverberate far beyond those marble floors. The cool evening breeze carried with it a sense of unease as Shaq stood under the golden glow of the streetlights. The elegant facade of the hotel loomed behind him, its shimmering windows reflecting the city's vibrant energy. Yet, the splendor was overshadowed by the bitter sting of the encounter he had just endured. Shaq took a deep breath, his broad shoulders rising and falling. He was no stranger to challenges, but there was something about being judged not by his actions or character, but by the color of his skin, that always cut deeper. Reaching into his pocket, he pulled out his phone. His thumb hovered over the screen as he scrolled through his contacts. The name he was searching for brought a faint smile to his lips. Chris, an old friend from his early basketball days and now a prominent investor in the very hotel chain he had just been turned away from. Without hesitation, Shaq composed a quick message, explaining what had happened. As he hit send, Shaq leaned against a nearby lamppost, his massive frame towering yet grounded. The hum of the city surrounded him, a mix of laughter, traffic, and distant music. Just as he began to reflect on the incident, a small voice broke through his thoughts. "Excuse me. Are you Big Shaq?" He turned to see a young boy, no older than 8, standing a few feet away. The boy's eyes were wide with awe, his hands nervously gripping the straps of his backpack. Shaq's expression softened instantly. "That's me, little man. How's it going?" he said, crouching down to the boy's level. The boy grinned, his shyness melting away. "My dad says you're a legend. He always says you help people and stand up for what's right." Shaq chuckled, his massive hand meeting the boy's for a gentle fist bump. "Your dad sounds like a smart guy. You tell him I said thanks, all right?" The boy nodded eagerly. "I will," he said before running back to a group that appeared to be his family. The parents gave Shaq a quick wave of gratitude, and he returned it with a warm smile. As the boy's words lingered in his mind, Shaq's phone buzzed. Chris had replied, and his message was brief but powerful. "I'm on it. That manager's about to have a very long night." Shaq straightened, his resolve solidified. He wasn't just standing up for himself, he was standing up for everyone who had ever been made to feel less than. He began walking back toward the hotel, his towering frame moving with purpose. Inside, the manager had no idea what was coming, or the valuable lesson he was about to learn. Shaq stood outside the opulent hotel, the city lights glinting off its towering glass structure. The buzz of his phone snapped him back to the moment. He glanced down and saw his friend's name flashing on the screen. Answering quickly, he heard the familiar, steady voice of Chris, calm but edged with controlled anger. "Shaq, tell me I misheard your message. What if my managers denied you entry? At my hotel?" Shaq chuckled softly, though there was no humor in it. "You heard right. Seems like your guy thinks he can judge who's worthy to walk through those doors." Chris's tone grew sharper. "That's unacceptable. I'll deal with him immediately." But Shaq stopped him. "Nah, let me handle this one. This is bigger than me. It's a teachable moment, for him and everyone watching." Chris hesitated before chuckling. "All right, big man, I'll let you take the lead. Just know I've got your back 100%. Shaq ended the call and slid his phone into his pocket, his expression a mix of determination and calm confidence. As he turned toward the grand entrance, the evening's earlier bitterness had transformed into a quiet resolve. The automatic doors slid open, and the manager stood there, arms crossed, his face a portrait of smug defiance. "I thought I made myself clear," the manager sneered, his tone dripping with contempt. "We have standards here. You're not welcome." Shaq smiled, leaning slightly closer, his imposing frame nearly eclipsing the smaller man. His voice was calm but carried a weight that demanded attention. "Oh, don't worry. The standards are about to get a serious upgrade." The manager blinked, caught off guard by Shaq's calm demeanor. The arrogance in his posture faltered as Shaq reached into his pocket. Slowly, he pulled out a sleek, laminated VIP card embossed with the hotel's logo. The glint of the card in the warm lobby lighting seemed to hit the manager like a physical blow. Nearby guests, who had been quietly observing the exchange, began whispering amongst themselves, their curiosity piqued by the unfolding drama. "Wait, is that Big Shaq?" one guest murmured, nudging their companion. "Looks like someone's in trouble," another replied, eyeing the manager with a mix of amusement and disdain. The manager's eyes darted from Shaq's face to the card and back again. His once smug expression now wavered, replaced by a nervous, almost desperate look. His voice, which had carried so much venom earlier, now faltered. I wasn't aware," he stammered, the color draining from his face. Shaq took a deliberate step closer, his towering frame casting a long shadow over the smaller man. "Is there a problem?" he asked, his voice calm but firm, the hint of a smile on his lips only amplifying the tension. The murmurs among the other guests grew louder. Some had even begun filming the exchange, their phones held discreetly at their sides. The manager's discomfort was on full display for everyone to see, and the weight of public scrutiny bore down on him like a tidal wave. For a moment, the grand lobby, with its sparkling chandeliers and marble floors, felt like a stage. The manager stood frozen, caught in the spotlight of his own prejudice, while Shaq stood tall, every bit the legend the young boy from earlier had described. The tension in the air was thick, and the moment felt like it could tip in any direction. The tension in the lavish hotel lobby was almost palpable as the manager's confidence visibly disintegrated. His eyes darted from Shaq's imposing figure to the sleek VIP card gleaming in the soft chandelier light. I didn't realize. I wasn't informed," he began, his voice trembling. Shaq raised an eyebrow, his calm yet cutting tones slicing through the awkward excuses. "Didn't realize? Or didn't care? You didn't hesitate to judge me the moment I stepped in." The murmurs among the gathered guests grew louder, their curiosity turning into a quiet condemnation of the manager. A young bellhop, who had been watching the scene unfold from the edge of the room, finally found the courage to step forward. His voice, though timid, carried a conviction that silenced the whispers. "Excuse me, sir," the bellhop said, addressing the manager but glancing at Shaq with a look of admiration. "I recognize Mr. Shaq. He's stayed here before and is one of the hotel's most esteemed guests. Always kind, always generous to the staff." The boy's words landed like a slap, and the manager's face flushed with embarrassment. Shaq turned to the bellhop, his stern expression softening into a warm smile. "Thanks, young man. At least someone here knows how to treat people with respect." The manager opened his mouth to protest but was cut off by the sudden arrival of another figure. The hotel's owner, a distinguished man in his late 50s, strode into the lobby. His tailored suit and authoritative air silenced the room instantly. His sharp gaze scanned the scene, locking onto the manager. "What's going on here?" the owner demanded, his voice calm but laced with unmistakable anger. The manager fumbled, pointing weakly at Shaq as if trying to shift the blame. I thought he wasn't supposed to be here," he stuttered, his earlier bravado nowhere to be found. The owner's face darkened, and then, as recognition dawned, his features softened into a broad smile as he turned to Shaq. "Shaq, my friend, it's been far too long. I deeply apologize for whatever misunderstanding occurred here. Let's take care of this right away." Shaq gave a small nod but said nothing, his silence speaking volumes. The owner's attention snapped back to the manager, his voice now icy and unforgiving. "In my office. Now." The manager's face strained of color as he stumbled to find words. I didn't mean any harm. It was just a mistake." "A mistake?" the owner interrupted sharply, his tone brooking no argument. "A mistake that could have cost this hotel its reputation. Go. Now." The manager shuffled away, his shoulders hunched, as the gathered crowd looked on, some openly recording the moment on their phones. The owner sighed, turning back to Shaq. "I can't apologize enough for this. Please allow us to make it right. Anything you need, your stay is on us." Shaq glanced around, the weight of the moment settling over him. "It's not just about me," he finally said. "It's about making sure this doesn't happen to anyone else. Treating people with dignity shouldn't depend on who they are or what they look like." The owner nodded, his expression serious. "You're absolutely right. Consider it done. And thank you for your patience." As the tension in the lobby began to dissipate, Shaq turned his attention back to the bellhop. "What's your name, young man?" "Jason, sir," the boy replied, standing a little taller now. "Well, Jason," Shaq said with a grin, pulling out his wallet and handing the boy a crisp bill. "Thanks for being the only one here tonight with some sense." Jason's face lit up as he accepted the tip, while the surrounding guests began clapping, their applause a celebration of Shaq's grace under pressure. Shaq turned to the owner once more, his towering frame imposing yet relaxed. "Let's hope this is the last time something like this happens." The owner nodded, his expression one of determination. "I promise it will be." The room remained frozen in a tense silence, the air thick with unease as the manager, his head hanging low, trudged behind the hotel owner toward his office. All eyes were on Shaq, who stood tall, his imposing presence commanding respect even in the face of indignity. Despite his composed demeanor, his eyes betrayed a mix of frustration and hurt that resonated deeply with the gathered onlookers. The young bellhop who had spoken earlier hesitated before stepping closer to Shaq. His hands fidgeted nervously as he looked up at the towering man. "Mr. Shaq, I just want to say I'm sorry for how you were treated. That shouldn't happen to anyone. It's not fair, and it's not right." Shaq's stern expression softened as he glanced down at the young man. A small smile curved his lips, and he nodded appreciatively. "It's not your fault, kid. You didn't do anything wrong. In fact, you did the right thing by speaking up. That takes guts." The bellhop's cheeks reddened slightly at the compliment, and a small smile of pride crept onto his face. "Thank you, sir. It just didn't feel right to stay quiet." Moments later, the hotel owner returned, his usually composed demeanor now replaced with a visible sense of regret. His steps were hurried, his expression a mixture of embarrassment and determination. He stopped in front of Shaq, clasping his hands together in a gesture of apology. "Shaq, I can't tell you how sorry I am," the owner began, his voice sincere. "That kind of behavior has no place in this hotel, and I assure you, it doesn't reflect our values. I've spoken to the manager, and he's been relieved of his duties effective immediately." Shaq listened quietly, nodding at the owner's words, though his tone remained steady and firm. "I appreciate you handling it quickly, but this isn't just about me. This is about how people are treated, period. Whether it's me or someone who doesn't have the same recognition, everyone deserves respect. You've got a beautiful hotel here, but respect has to match the luxury." The owner's face flushed as he nodded fervently. "You're absolutely right, Shaq. This has been a wake-up call, and I promise I'll do everything in my power to make sure this never happens again. Not to you, not to anyone." Shaq took a moment to glance around the lobby, his gaze sweeping over the crowd of guests who had gathered, many of them still whispering among themselves. He turned back to the owner, then addressed everyone, his deep voice resonating across the room. "It's easy to judge people based on what they look like, but when you do that, you're not just being unfair, you're losing out. You never know who's walking through that door or what they bring to the table. Treating people with dignity shouldn't be optional, it should be the standard." The crowd murmured in agreement, and a ripple of applause broke out among the guests. Some nodded in approval, while others exchanged reflective glances, clearly moved by Shaq's words. The young bellhop stood a little taller, inspired by the moment. The tension in the room began to dissolve as the hotel owner stepped forward again, his voice warm and inviting. "Shaq, please, allow me to personally escort you to our finest suite. It's the least I can do to make up for this." Shaq nodded, following the owner as the crowd parted to make way. The whispers had shifted now, filled with admiration for Shaq's poise and grace in handling the situation. As Shaq walked through the lavish hallways of the hotel, he couldn't help but reflect on the incident. It wasn't the first time he'd encountered such judgment, and sadly, it wouldn't be the last. But this time, the lesson wasn't just for the manager, it was for everyone who had witnessed it. When they reached the suite, the owner opened the door, revealing an opulent room with floor-to-ceiling windows offering breathtaking views of the city. "If there's anything you need, anything at all, don't hesitate to let me know," the owner said earnestly. Shaq stepped inside, taking a moment to admire the room before turning back to the owner. "Thanks. But what I need is for this place to be a place of respect for everyone who walks through those doors. Make sure that happens, and we're good." The owner nodded, his expression solemn. "Consider it done." As the door closed behind him, Shaq took a deep breath, letting the tension of the evening melt away. Outside the suite, the young bellhop stood near the elevator, still beaming with pride. The night wasn't just about Shaq, it was a reminder to everyone present of the power of kindness, respect, and standing up for what's right. Later that evening, as Shaq settled into the luxurious suite, he couldn't shake the lingering feeling of the day's events. He gazed out the window, the city lights twinkling below. His mind wandered back to the faces of the people in the lobby, the whispers, the judgments, and the courage of the young bellhop. The hotel owner knocked gently before stepping in. "Mr. Shaq, I just wanted to thank you personally again. Your words earlier, they've already inspired changes. The staff is undergoing immediate training on inclusivity and respect." Shaq gave a small nod, his voice calm. "That's a start. It's about creating a culture where everyone feels valued, from the guests to the people who work here." The owner hesitated for a moment before adding, "If you're willing, we'd love to host a community event in your honor, something to bring awareness to treating everyone with dignity." Shaq considered it, his lips curving into a slight smile. "I like that idea. Let's make it about more than me, though. Let's make it about change." The next day, word spread about the event, and the hotel lobby filled with guests, staff, and members of the local community. Shaq shared his story, not as a celebrity, but as a man who believed in equality. The bellhop stood beside him, glowing with pride for playing a small role in what had become a powerful moment of unity. The manager's actions had sparked outrage, but Shaq's response had ignited something greater, a call for compassion and fairness. From that day on, the hotel became a symbol of transformation, a place where everyone, no matter their background, was welcomed with open arms.
Thank you for watching this story on Behind the Hate. While the events in this tale are creatively crafted and not based on real events, they are designed to spark conversations about justice and fairness. We're on an incredible journey to reach our first 1,000 subscribers, and your support means the world to us. If this story resonated with you, please like, share, and comment your thoughts below. It truly helps us grow. Before you go, check out the videos showing on your screen for more compelling stories. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this mission. Together, we can bring awareness and inspire change.